When I go on any cruise, I try to go into it without having a jaded approach to it. It's really easy to be jaded, I think, the more you do almost anything, like after a while. And certainly, so I've been on over 100 Royal Caribbean cruises, it occurred to me that, like, I didn't want to be that guy. I've seen jaded cruisers, people that do it a lot, and then they lose their luster for it, but also become very skeptical and condescending. But when I was on Star of the Seas last week, there was something that occurred that really, like, just got under my skin, and it's something that I've seen before, and that is people who bring their pets and try to pass them off as service animals. Now, when I was on Star of the Seas, I witnessed what I believe is a dog that is a pet that was basically somebody went on Amazon, bought probably the cheapest service dog vest I've ever seen. Like, oftentimes when I've spotted this in the past, you've seen vests that, like, I'm like, well, that's probably just one they bought off Amazon and they're trying to pass it off. This was like more of a t-shirt that had the word service dog on it that the dog was wearing. And to be fair, I don't know for a fact that this particular dog wasn't a service animal, but the vest the dog had on was just about the cheapest vest I've ever seen. And on other days of the cruise, it didn't even have the vest on at all. The dog was just walking on a leash. Not to mention that I had seen the dog leading the person on the leash, and it was consistently sniffing around as it walked. It was just doing things that service dogs are not supposed to do. And again, I could be completely wrong, but it left me and a lot of other people that saw it as well in disbelief this was a true service animal. And it's not the first time I've seen a so-called service dog on a ship doing things service animals shouldn't be doing. Emotional support animals are not allowed on cruise ships, at least on Royal Caribbean anyway, and neither are regular pets. And I love dogs, but the rules are in place for a reason, and buying a service animal vest on Amazon doesn't make your pet a service dog. Not to mention the fact it diminishes the important role that real service dogs serve. And it was an observation that I made when I was on Star of the Seas, which was, by the way, an amazing cruise overall. But whenever I go on any ship, I tend to look for some of these things that stand out. Now, in a lot of cases, when I go on any cruise, I'm looking for ideas for videos here, things that I can try that are new. But inevitably, I just can't help but notice things like this. And I assume it's kind of like if you're a marketing executive and maybe when you watch a TV commercial, when you're just sitting down and watching, casually television, you can't help but like critique that particular advertisement, right? The service dog thing, as I mentioned, is something that I have seen on other ships and other sailings, and it really speaks to something that bothers me the most about guest behavior. I mean, people can do whatever they want to do on a cruise. I'm not anyone's dad. I'm not here to tell you that everybody should cruise the same way I do. But I generally think we can all agree that people who flagrantly break the rules, knowingly break the rules, and try to circumvent them, like actively, not out of ignorance, but out of like a clear determination, a first degree attempt to break the rules is the worst thing that really just drives me up a wall because they know it's wrong. They're doing it anyway, usually for selfish reasons. I mean, I don't think there's any altruistic reasons for doing it. They simply feel that the rules don't apply to them. They don't care. They want to do it anyway. They want to save money. I don't know what the rationale is, but they do it knowingly. And the service dog one is a clear example of that. This led me to think about other examples of people flagrantly breaking the rules. One is definitely like vaping more than smoking. I have to say, cigarette smokers, they smoke in their designated areas. I mean, they might smoke in their balcony or their bathroom, but I rarely see that or experience it. The vapors absolutely will vape almost anywhere. They do the old thing where they vape and then try to blow it up in the air so no one can see it, or they vape into their shirt, and they're doing it so inconspicuously as a means to get around it because they can't be bothered to go to the smoking areas that, again, it stands out and it's flagrantly against the rules. The other are the people that smuggle alcohol on board the ship, in shampoo bottles and things of that nature, which, by the way, it appears that the cruise lines are cracking down on that a lot more. But when it comes to any of these things that are flagrantly against the rules, what bothers me more is how this dog got on board the ship. I mean, I don't know what the rules are and the ramifications. I know there are some things related to ADA, and like you can't necessarily ask for proof of documentation of certain, ailments or whatnot. I'm not going to pretend to be a lawyer in this case, but it just is like, when people are like circumventing it, and there's even a hint that it might not be up to snuff. Like, I feel like Royal needs to do more to, they don't have to confront the person like that's not a real dog. You can certainly start asking some questions at the very least, because of course a service animal on board is an exemption to a rule about generally not bringing, pets on board a cruise ship. So it bothered me. I told my wife about it. It bothered me for like a day or two. And when I got back, I wrote about it. But I also know some other things on board Star of the Seas that weren't nearly as crazy or nefarious by any means. One thing that really struck me was how many people just completely skip Surfside, which is fine because obviously Surfside is the family centric neighborhood on the ship. And not only is it family centric, it is young family centric. A lot of people just call it the kids' neighborhood. I mean, technically it's for families, for parents too, but I digress. But this isn't so much an issue that I'm thinking people are missing out on the Splashaway Bay Area. It's more the restaurants that are there, because if you've sailed on Icon or Star of the Seas and just avoid Surfside completely, you're missing out some really good restaurants that are here. I mean, I get it. Surfside is like a glorified giant version of the IKEA ball pit room multiplied by a factor of 10, but I do think it's actually worth going to for some of the restaurants. Number one is definitely Pier 7. Pier 7 is so underrated and so easily overlooked. It's in a terrible location from the standpoint that unless you go all the way into Surfside, you may not even know that it's there. It's very inexpensive. You can pre-book brunch before the cruise for about $8, and kids under 12 eat free there. And it has some really good food. They have a brunch menu, they have a dinner menu, and both are different. And some of the food options are just things that you can't get elsewhere on the ship. I'm always a big fan of that. And there's healthy food on there. There's some indulgences. I really think that Pier 7 is a restaurant that is worth getting a reservation for, regardless if you have kids or not. Then, of course, you also have Surfside Eatery. Now, this is the kids buffet on board the ship, along with Surfside Bites, which is the grab-and-go kids' food. Now, yes, there's a lot of food here that leans towards the kids, but there is food for adults as well. In fact, as many of you probably know, on embarkation day, when you're on Star of the Seas or Icon, they are currently, at least at the recording of this podcast, serving a seafood and filet mignon buffet option, the Windjammer. The problem is it gets very busy, but they also serve the same or similar food options, I should say, over at Surfside Eatery, and it's a lot less crowded. So again, it's one of those things I think is worth your time, not only to avoid crowds, but also because the food is pretty good. I also jotted down on my list that I was really surprised how many people are unaware completely of the casino free play option. So any cruise ship you go on, not just Star of the Seas, but any cruise ship, you'll get free play in the casino. Now, it's only a couple dollars, and if you're new to Royal Caribbean, I believe it's like $4 in total. You do get some bonus money if you do it on the first 48 hours. So, like, there's $2 on top of everybody else's money that you would get. And as you climb up Crown and Anchor Society, the amount of free play you get increases like by $1 or $2. And, you know, at the end of the day, if you're getting $6 or $8, it's not a lot. It's enough for a couple spins. But number one, it's free money. And number two, if you do win with that, it's great. When I first started cruising with Royal Caribbean, I'm not sure if you all remember this, there used to be in the casino, they didn't have free play. You'd go to the casino and they would give you a token. You take this token and go to a designated slot machine. And this particular slot machine, theoretically, would pay out money, but it never worked that way. Inevitably, what would happen is you would put it in there, lose, and get nothing. Probably the best case scenario, you would win a t-shirt. It was like this one specialized slot machine. Well, I think it was pretty large, actually. And it really was the purpose of simply drawing you in there. In the same way that on the Royal Promenade, they'll give away, you know, a free trinket or something as an excuse to get you into the shop so that you'll go and hopefully spend some money. And I don't remember exactly what year this changed, but at some point, Casino Royale was like, all right, this is not really working, or people don't care that much, or whatever. And they decided to give free play. So if you go to the casino, and you should do it within the first 48 hours, you get free money. There's instructions for how to do this. Basically, you go to any slot machine, tap your CPAS card in there, or insert it, depending on what ship you're on. You know, log into your account and access your free play. If you need instructions for it, just go to the cashier. They'll give you a little piece of paper that explains the instructions for it. But it is legit free money. The catch is you cannot cash it out until you actually spend it all. What I mean by that is, let's say your free play is $4. If you win $10 immediately, great. But you must play through those first $4 completely, the free play money, before you can cash out. So that's the only catch to it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'll take free money. But a lot of people have like no clue that it exists, which I'm really surprised by, because at the end of the day, who doesn't like free money? And lastly, on Star of the Seas, I had a good reminder for everybody out there that you really need to manage your time in port. We visited Costa Maya, which is in Mexico. It'll be the future site of Perfect Day Mexico. And our visit had some really lame hours, 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. I feel like I go on a rant about things that really drive me nuts about Royal Caribbean. This will be one of them. And whenever I do that, someone to remind me of this one, because this is the dumbest thing. They do this in Puerto Rico as well sometimes. But 7:30 to 1:30 is a terrible port stop. Number one, nothing is open, practically speaking, until at least 9 o'clock. So the first hour and a half is completely waste of time. And then you have to be back at 1:30. So this really limits how much time you actually have to do almost anything in port. But 1:30 is a really early time to be back on the ship. And I think some people definitely miss the ship or were late back to it. I certainly, know well enough to always manage my time, got back on the ship, got back to my room, and I started taking a nap, actually. And then I was awoken by an in-cabin announcement that came across in which the person on the other end asked like a dozen people, so-and-so from deck 7, so-and-so from deck 12, please report to guest services if they're on board. Then the ship blew its horn a number of times and consistently, and they'd made the announcement at least 2 or 3 times and blew the horn another 2 or 3 times there. And I'm not sure if those people were left behind in port or they were just simply flagrantly late. Regardless of that, it's a reminder that you need to manage your time. And yes, you can be left behind if you don't manage it. Now, some people will say, oh, Matt, this is why I always book my shore excursions through Royal Caribbean. I would point out that in a lot of cases, this may not be as cut and dry as that. I mean, it could be, you're right. But I think in the case like Costa Maya, I mean, it's in its current state before it gets demolished to become Perfect Day Mexico. It is a very large port facility. There is a free pool there. There's lots of shops. There's restaurants. And like everybody is trying to sell you something. Obviously, there's alcohol there as well. It's really easy to lose track of time in that port because you get back to the port facility and you're like, well, I made it back. I can see the ship. It's right there. It's very easy, even if you manage time properly, to lose track of time. Now, I would argue also, of course, when you start looking around and see literally nobody else around you, that might be a sign. Although there was a Norwegian ship with us and also a Carnival ship. I know Norwegian stayed till at least 3:30, so I guess it wouldn't be total ghost town. But really, you need to obviously make sure you watch your time closely. Personally, I always plan to return to port at least 1 to 2 hours before all aboard time just to guard against like any unforeseen delays there. And then, of course, I also set my phone or watch to ship time. I turn off the automatic time zone changes on my phone to prevent accidentally going to the wrong time. And if you're ever confused what time it really is within the world of Royal Caribbean, you can always pull up the Royal Caribbean app. It has the ship time in the app there, so it's a good way to verify that. Ultimately, some of these observations are silly things, some of them are more serious. And the dog thing, I mean, I've seen it before. This is not the first time I've seen it. It's those kinds of things where I know that they know that I know they're breaking the rules and they're doing it because they're selfish. And again, it bothers me because they're breaking the rules. And also, in the case of service animals, I mean, they're just doing a disservice to folks who really do rely on service animals. It's the same thing with why Royal Caribbean changed its rules with the drink package. They got rid of the caveat or loophole that allowed somebody to call in and say, hey, my wife or spouse or somebody else in my room is an adult, doesn't want to get the deluxe beverage package. Can they get the refreshing package? And they would allow that. Now they don't do that anymore. Too many people were breaking that rule and getting around that or circumventing it purposely to break it. Anyway, that being said, I mean, I hope they don't do that with service animals, but that is exactly what happened with the drink package. And I fear people breaking the rules with service dogs would do the same thing there. All right, friends, time to answer your listener emails. This is part of the episode where I answer emails that you've sent me. Our first email is from Bob Blevins. Now, Bob wrote a really long email, so I'm going to have to consolidate it for time, but it was about the key. Hi, Matt. I know you were reevaluating the key, and I wanted to share my experience with it. It seemed like the perfect application of the key program. I'm a solo traveler going to Cabo, which is a tender port, and of course, most of all, I want internet access. If someone doesn't care about internet access, the key never makes sense to do so. So he gave a really good breakdown of the key, except it's really long here. So I'm going to shorten it to the end of it and skip it here. But anyway, in summary, although many of the features of the key were not great or I didn't take advantage of it, the price of it can still be worth it, especially for solo travelers. It was worth like the extra $30. However, for a couple or a family could just pay for one device internet and share it for $20 a day, comparing extra cost of the key of at least $180 would never be worth it. The only exception might be if both people needed that internet access 100% of the time, like if they're both live streaming at the same time. So Key for solo travelers is a great idea, not so much for all others. Bob, great perspective. And, when I had the Key for my evaluation, I booked it on a cruise in which I was solo. And in retrospect, I'm not sure if that was a good idea from a review standpoint, because it did allow me to save money, but I probably would have been much harsher on it if I had to buy it for my family. Because again, the problem with the Key is you have to buy for everybody in your room who's at least 6 years old. And I feel like I've talked about this like a dozen billion times on this podcast. I don't like the Key. I think the benefits sound better than they are. And in a lot of cases, if you're multiplying that out for, 3-4 people, it just becomes expensive. And I'm all for buying the internet, but if I can save, some extra money and not get it, I think it's worthwhile. Next email is from Frank. I know you're not a smoker. I was just wondering if you've heard of an event called Cigars Into the Stars. I'm a cigar smoker. I saw in a vlog on Utopia of the Seas, there's an event at a bar in the aft of the ship. I forget the name of the bar, maybe the View Bar. Do they have that event on other ships like Star or Icon? I think they renamed that bar. Yes, they did. Actually, I was on Freedom of the Seas a couple weeks ago, and I stumbled upon it. I was like, you know what? It's the evening. I wanted to go to the Sky Bar because I wanted some fresh air. It wouldn't be hot outside. And lo and behold, it was the Cigars Under the Stars event. So yes, they still do it on other ships as well. I think it's on every sailing. I could be wrong on that, but basically, it's an event in which they designate a bar, usually a pool bar of some kind, to be the cigars event. And basically they have not only bar service there, but they actually sell cigars, so you can bring your own as well. And it's basically an excuse for a couple hours to have a designated cigar smoking area. And so yes, I believe it's still offered, Frank. Again, I saw it on at least Freedom of the Seas. I don't look for it personally, as you alluded to, but at the same time, I still believe it's still being offered there. It's a good, nice social event. Next up, we have an email from Ken from Tennessee. Hi, Matt. Relatively new to your channel and absolutely loving the videos and podcasts. Me and my wife will be taking our first cruise in February, 8 days, Western Caribbean on Rhapsody of the Seas. I have 2 questions. First, we watched your videos so much that we decided to start planning our 5-year anniversary cruise in 2027. Is it cheaper to book a next cruise on the ship or wait and search online for deals? Well, I'll answer the question first. The answer is you should book it now. Do not wait. Basically, if you wait to book it on board the ship, any extra onboard credit you might get would be negated by the fact the price will probably go up between now and then. So book it now. That's number 1. Ken's second question. There's a lot going on during our 8 days at sea. The Super Bowl, the Olympics, and Valentine's Day. Does Royal Caribbean do anything special for those events on board? They definitely do. The Super Bowl will have viewing opportunities. Usually the main theater becomes like one of them. It's a big party. There's special food options, special events. Also for the Olympics and Valentine's Day, you may see decorations. Valentine's Day for sure, on Valentine's Day. The Olympics, less decorations, but in both cases, the Olympics and Valentine's Day, maybe some special events like Valentine's Day trivia, or Olympic trivia, things of that nature. So it's nothing like crazy. I don't want to oversell this as like, oh my goodness, Ken, you're going on it. They're going to like theme the whole cruise. But there are special events specifically for the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and Valentine's Day. So yeah, I would definitely look at the Royal Caribbean app more closely to make sure you don't miss out on them because they're something different, something fun to do. Our next email is from Michelle, planning a Norwegian Fjord cruise for 2028. Yes, I know it's too early. The Celebrity Apex goes to Geiranger and Flam, and I keep hearing those are the 2 best fjord ports, whereas Mariner will go to Olden, Stavanger, and Bergen. I've been on the Apex and know it's a newer ship. My question is it worth the higher price to go to Geiranger and Flam? So I've been to Geiranger. I've not been to Flam. I've been to Olden. I've been to Stavanger. Have I been to Stavanger? I don't know if I've been there. I've been to Bergen. Both Stavanger and Bergen are cities. Olden is a beautiful village. It is technically a fjord there. It's not quite the same. Geiranger is amazing. By far the best one I've been to. And I think Flam is pretty darn good as well. So is it worth it? Yes. I don't want you to think that if you're going to Olden and Stavanger and Bergen, you're having a bad time. Bergen is a city. You'll probably sail through a fjord to get in there, but it's not if you're going to Bergen, you're probably just simply going to the city there. In the case, I'd have to take a look. You'd have to look at the shore excursions. There may be options in one of those ports to actually go to either Flam or Geiranger. It's going to be a long time on a bus. That's the only downside of that. But truly, when I went on Anthem of the Seas, this was not last year, or not 2025, maybe 2024, I believe. We went to Geiranger, and I was blown away by it. Actually, it might have been 23. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I went there at one point. It was stunning. You've seen photos of it, I am sure, because there's always this perspective of the photo taken from the top of the fjord, looking down into it. Ships at the bottom, utterly amazing. I do think, given these choices, I would probably lean heavily towards Celebrity. You wouldn't have a bad time on Mariner going to those other ports. You wouldn't regret it. But if you've seen the photo of that from both Geiranger and Flom, you probably say to yourself, I really want to see that. That's the difference right there. If you were going to... Now, Olden is a really nice port. It's a very small town, and it has some absolutely stunning lakes, and you can go to a fjord from Olden. I believe we did that. There was a bus that brought us, and we took a scenic tour, and basically, in order to sail into Olden, you pass through a fjord, and so there are scenic spots around there to be able to see one, that you get a similar perspective, but it's not nearly as epic, because when you're in a fjord, by far, the best perspective is always at the, I don't know what the word is, the end of it, the start of it, because a fjord is basically just a waterway in the ocean that has really steep cliffs on both sides that like are carved out from glaciers, I guess. Anyway, but when you get to the end of it, it curves around. Think of it like the giant letter U. And if you're at the bottom of the U, that's the best viewing, especially if there's elevation, which is what Geiranger has. And that's what makes it so cool. So, yeah, I probably will lean towards Celebrity a lot there. That sounds like a really good idea based on that itinerary. Next email is from Everett. We have made My Time dining reservations for our upcoming Symphony of the Seas cruise for $6:45 every night. When we arrive at dining, do we have to wait in line, or we can go right to our table, or do we have to wait in line? The answer is you go right to your table. This is the best thing, well, one of the best things about traditional dining. When you have traditional dining and not My Time, yes, as soon as the dining room doors open, you go straight to your table. There's no line, unless the dining room isn't open yet. That's the only time there's a line. But unlike My Time dining, there's no like, okay, now line up and get escorted in. No. Super easy. So, yeah, there you go. Next up, we have an email from Heather. Hi, Matt. I'm hoping you get to this question before my cruise. My boyfriend and I are heading out of LA to Ensenada and Cabo over Christmas. We're staying in LA for 3 days prior to the cruise. I'm beginning to plan my packing list, and I've been doing some research on weather and temperatures in those places around that time of year. What I'm finding is about a 40-degree gap in temperature. Nighttime lows in the 40s, daytime highs in the 70s and 80s. Assuming you've done this itinerary for the same time of year, I'm looking for advice and suggestions. I plan to pack both shorts and pants, but which will I wear more? Is it going to be warm enough to enjoy the pools? Should I be packing sandals or warmer shoes? Packing for 10 days with a 40-degree temperature gap seems daunting. Yeah, this is definitely an issue, and I've experienced this where actually it's cold or cooler or cold in LA and then hot in Mexico. This is basically hoodie weather, in my opinion. You should plan to wear, or pack, I should say, shorts and t-shirts. I would pack, though, a hoodie or like not a jacket, not a heavy jacket, like a winter jacket, but like a hoodie, a fleece jacket, something that would keep you warm in like the 50s or so. Because remember, when they give you the low temperatures, that's not like, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Realistically, if the highs are in the 70s and 80s, the evening hours, the early morning will be like in the upper 50s, lower 60s, right? Unless, of course, you are outside at 1 o'clock in the morning, which more power to you. But I don't think you have to worry so much about the 40s as you do have to worry about those 50s and 60s. So that's like, to me, hoodies, light jackets, things like that. And I would pack, though, definitely at least a pair of jeans or two. I know what you're trying to avoid, Matt. I don't want to pack for my 7-day cruise 7 pairs of shorts, 7 pairs of jeans, 7 pairs of shirts, 7 pairs of sweaters. The good news is the hoodies and things like that can be reworn a lot. As long as you don't soil them, either spill something on it or sweat profusely in them, I think they can be safely worn again and not be a faux pas of fashion and or personal hygiene. But then on top of that, the same is true also for like jeans and slacks or khaki, something like that. You have to plan for it. You have to have a backup plan to have like a pair or two of pants and like 1 or 2 sweaters. But I would plan for warmer weather clothing, especially when you get to the afternoon, from like, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the prime time to be on shore. It's going to get warm. Secondly, I want to wear something Christmassy on Christmas. However, I live in New Hampshire, so my Christmassy clothes are very warm. We'll be in Ensenada that day, and we have an excursion booked called La Cava de Marcelo, the Cheese Cave. Have you ever done this excursion before? Is there a lot of walking? How warm should I expect it in Ensenada on Christmas? So I've not done that particular tour. Ensenada, similar to LA, is far enough north, it can be chilly there. This is a port, and I've never done this tour. I've only been to Ensenada once. But if I was going on Christmas, I would probably plan on, like I said, maybe this would be the day you probably wear the jeans, a t-shirt, and maybe bring your hoodie with you and then take the hoodie on or off as you see fit. You've got the layers approach to packing would probably make sense for Ensenada. When you get down to further south in the Baja Peninsula, certainly Cabo, it warms up significantly. But oftentimes, because Ensenada is right over the border, it's so close to Southern California that oftentimes the temperature difference between LA and Ensenada is not that much. But when you get down to Mazatlan or Puerto Vallarta or Cabo, then you see a big temperature gap there. So thank you for the email, Heather. Our last email is from Patrick Giannetti. Good day, Matt. I've been a loyal listener since your WDW Today days, and I've been cruising here and there since 2005. But everything changed once we booked our first Royal Caribbean cruise on Anthem of the Seas in 2023, and that's when I rediscovered you. Finding your podcast felt like reconnecting with an old trusted friend. I've actually gone back and started listening for episode 1, and I'm currently deep in the dark times of the COVID era, while also keeping up with the newest episodes. This brings me to a few questions inspired by episode 583, the surprises from the newly announced 2027-2028 itinerary episode. Number 1, with the big news of Icon going to Galveston, it got me wondering, with Legend arriving next year and more Icon-class ships coming in 26 and 28, plus the options for Icon 6 and 7, do you think an Icon-class ship will ever make its way to Bayonne? Can it even fit there? I know Oasis and Quantum sail from that port, but I'm curious if the Icon-class could or would call it home. It's a great question. I got this question recently on a Facebook Live I did, and I said, for years, people asked that same question about the Oasis class, and there were people who say, the Oasis class can't get into New York because of the Verrazano Bridge, and then lo and behold, it did. So never say never. I don't know for a fact if it's physically possible for an Icon class to get there, but in my experience covering Royal Caribbean, I will tell you this much: the ships' deployments are an inevitability. Like, every ship eventually moves around to almost every single region of the world, or at least a class of ships anyway. So I would not bet against it. Number 2, after hitting your 100th Royal Caribbean cruise, which ships are you still on your haven't done list? Spectrum of the Seas, Vision, Grandeur. Is that it? I think I'm forgetting. I always forget like one ship. Let's see. I've done the Icon class. I've done the Oasis class. I've done the Freedom class. I mentioned I have not been on, Spectrum. I've been on the Oasis class, Freedom class. I've done the Voyager class. I've done Voyager of the Seas. I think that's all that's left. Is really like 3 ships. Yeah, Vision, Grandeur, and Spectrum. Number 3, and finally, since the early days of the podcast, you wax so pedagogy about Sabor, even as the experience changed over the years. With it soon leaving Liberty, thank goodness, I have to ask, which special restaurant now holds a special place in your heart, excluding the supper clubs? Ooh, probably Izumi. I love sushi. I love hibachi. I think it would be that. I love the Mason jar, but I love the bar more than I love the restaurant, so it's not that. And 150 Central Park is good, really good, actually. Giovanni's really good, but I think Izumi is the one that, like, if I close my eyes and I can go to one restaurant and think about it, it's probably Izumi. Thanks for all the work you put into the podcast. It makes my daily commute feel a whole lot more like Sail Away Day, your fellow nutmegger, New Haven Pizza Rules, Patrick. Well, thanks for the email. Great to reconnect with you here, Patrick. And, Izumi is definitely one of my favorites right there. All right, well, that's it. That's all the time we have for this episode. Of course, if I can answer your questions about Royal Caribbean, you can always email me, matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com. Matt, M-A-T-T, @royalcaribbeanblog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.